I'm interested in understanding this investing in something that goes down in value concept. I think I have an assumption of what you mean by that, but I'd like to understand, like, what can folks gain from that?
Well, what the way I would look at things is this. You know, right now in America, we have this interesting transition where lots of people are quitting their jobs. You actually have this problem where a lot of people are quitting their jobs and nobody wants to go to work anymore. And you would ask why? Well, where's this coming from? Where are people going to make their money? Well, what has occurred at the same time is there's been this renaissance in investing. There's been a lot of people who've discovered things like the stock market, which has led to other forms of investments. They're looking at not just things like stocks and crypto, but they're also looking at the ownership of real estate. In the Black Business School, we have a lot of interest in ownership of everything from hotels to property and everything in between. And so one of the things that I enjoy doing is kind of helping all of us to understand investing in a more holistic way, right? A lot of people think that investing is only good if you're making tons of money. And what that is it's almost like a football game where you're looking at the quarterback and you're thinking the quarterback's job is to get the ball down the field, right? And if he's not getting the ball down the field, then he isn't a successful quarterback, which might partially be true, right? You ultimately want him to get down the field and score a touchdown, but that's not the number one job of the quarterback. The number one job of the quarterback is not to get the ball down the field. The number one job of the quarterback is to protect the ball so the defense doesn't get it, right? And one of the biggest things that's happening right now in this whole renaissance, this whole economic revolution that we're seeing right now, is that we're not just having people get the ball down the field, but we're actually doing a more important job, which is protecting the ball in the first place. Black folks have not protected the ball. We've given the ball away. We fumble on every play, right? Because Black wealth is just leaving like crazy, right? We're literally donating trillions of dollars on a regular basis to other communities, and that's why we don't have any wealth. So if you consider that, if you start with a more foundational way of looking at this wealth renaissance, and you say, okay, here's what we're doing. We are not fumbling the ball anymore. We're preserving the ball. We're preserving our assets. Then that to me should lead to a broader understanding of what investment does for you. And investing isn't just something that just gives you extra money. Investing on top of that, it gives you freedom. People in America that don't have wealth don't have any freedom. I don't care what anybody says. It's just not true. Thirdly, it allows for the preservation of what you have, right? Income means almost nothing. Income is transitory, right? What matters is not income. What matters is wealth. What matters is not what you make, is what you keep. You probably heard that from somewhere else, right? So to me, let's say you got two guys, right? They both make $80,000 a year. One guy gets his money and he balls out. He goes to the mall, goes to the club, goes on vacation, buys the nicest cars, has the nicest clothes. And every week for the rest of his life, he brings home a paycheck, he spends it, and then he has to go back to work to get another one. And it's rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. He's not moving forward at all. He's just getting old. That's all he's doing, is getting older and getting broker. Y'all, we've seen that model, right? Now let's look at the other guy. Let's say you have another guy who's a really bad investor. Well, not really bad. Let's say he's modestly bad. Now, if he's really bad, then that would be terrible. But let's say that he's not so good, but he just kind of does basic things. Like he goes in and he's buying different stocks. He doesn't know why he's buying them. He's just picking stuff, and he's planting his money in the stock market. He's planting some money in real estate. He's planting some money in some business ventures, some of which do okay, some of which don't. Well, if these guys do this, let's say for 5 years, each of them makes a total of $400,000 in those 5 years. One guy gives all his money away. He's down to zero. The other guy has taken, let's say, half of his 400K, and he's put 200K into very mediocre investments that haven't grown a bit. Let's say they've gone down 10%. So his 200K goes down to 180K. 5 years later, who's in a better position? The guy that has zero, or the guy who has 180K in the bank, right? I mean, so that's what I want people to understand, is that the biggest mistake you can make in investing is not making a bad investment. The biggest mistake you can make in investing is to not invest at all. And so ultimately, I think even mediocre investments are better than nothing. The fact that you're even in the game at least gives you a chance to win. For many of us, not only have we not protected the ball, but we haven't even been in the game. So that's, to me, that's the remarkable part of this whole movement, not just the fact that people are getting rich and getting wealthy. Because I see it. I see guys online that are driving fancy cars and get on private jets and everything else. That, to me, is not that. I'm not saying that those things aren't important. They're important if you're young. They're important if you've never done those things. But what you really find is, from a more fundamental standpoint, having wealth in your family is a form of protection, and it gives you access to freedom that many of our parents and ancestors never had. That's what this wealth revolution is doing for our people.
Thank you for that. Okay. Let me do this, since we have about 7 minutes left on the calendar. I want to throw in a specific question, but I want you to pick it out real quick. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can you see my tab? So if you could just skim over this and see if there's a question that pops out to you that you either